Good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Yes, it's 9 p.m. right now. And first and foremost, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And good morning to you, Varun. I know it's about like 7 a.m. in Utah right now.
Good morning and good evening, everyone. Thanks.
Yeah, so we have a number, we have quite a number of participants from Singapore. Before we start rolling and start the training or rather sharing session by Varun at 9:05 p.m. Now I just want to make a roll call. I know most of you here are actually from Singapore, but do we have members from Malaysia who are actually in this training or in this session as well? You can actually type in the chat and share with us from Malaysia, from Philippines, from Indonesia. Okay, we have from Indonesia, Abigail from Indonesia, Badaria from Malaysia. Do we have Philippines or do we have anyone from Australia? Michelle here from Malaysia. Indonesia. Yes, Zendra said made in Malaysia. Oh, you know what, Varun? We have from Saudi Arabia and we have Kelly from United States as well. Okay, Malaysia. So we have Singapore members. We have Singapore members, Malaysian members, Indonesia, United States, Saudi Arabia. Okay, from Sabah, Malaysia, West and East Malaysia. Great. That's like global, really, like all over the world. I'm just wondering, what time is it in Saudi Arabia right now, Alexis? Just curious. Okay, we have 96 participants, including those from the Young Living Singapore corporate staff. And okay, it's actually 4:03 p.m. in Saudi Arabia, not too bad. Okay, and yes, just to respond, in Singapore and Malaysia right now, it's actually 9 p.m. in the evening. All right, so we have quite a number of people joining us tonight or this evening in Singapore. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. And once again, welcome everyone to tonight's training on this evening's sharing session by Varun on Sunshine for Your Health. Now, why is the topic, we are talking about is Sunshine for Your Health? Because, as of late, we do see a lot of newspaper articles, especially on, those articles in newspaper making headlines in Singapore regarding, how many Singaporeans or how many people residing in Singapore who are actually deficient in vitamin D. And honestly, when I talk about vitamin D, it's commonly known as sunshine vitamin. Why is it called as sunshine vitamin? Simply because our body can produce vitamin D upon exposure to sunshine. But then again, the next question to you will be, Singapore being a sunny island, okay, it's basically sunny all year round, but why is it that there are so many Singaporeans residing in Singapore or people who are in Singapore are deficient in this sunshine vitamin? So of course, today we have Varun Conero, the Senior Director of Product Development in Young Living, here with us today to share about the importance of this sunshine vitamin and of course to introduce Young Living Super Vitamin D. I know Young Living Super Vitamin D, it's not new to some of you here because it's actually a product that's being launched in the US or available in the Young Living United States. But for some of you who are not aware of what's the importance of vitamin D, this is definitely a good session that you can learn the benefits as well as the importance of vitamin D from Varun. So Varun is actually a food scientist and he has a master's in food science and nutrition. So currently he's actually leading the scientific department or rather the science department, research and product development, and leading 17 scientists. And so what do they do and what does this department do? He actually conducts research and of course develop essential oil infused product for Young Living. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Varun, who will share with you about the benefits of vitamin D. Over to you, Varun.
Well, thanks, Irene, for that introduction. And it's so intriguing to see so many different nationalities on this call. I'm actually from India, so there we go, another country for you on the list. Let me start sharing the screen. Let me move this here. Can you guys all see it?
Yes.
Okay, let's begin. So this is a very interesting topic. Like Irene said, vitamin D is the only vitamin actually that our body can produce using sunlight. But still, a lot of people are deficient. So let's jump into it, and I hope the next few minutes you'll find it interesting and also very informative. Vitamin D is one of the best understood and most important vitamins for human health. Most of the people know that vitamin D promotes calcium and phosphate absorption for strong bones. But did you know that vitamin D also helps modulate cell growth, neuromuscular and immune function, and even inflammatory reduction, which is awesome for our vitamin. The Institute of Medicine at National Academy has established the minimum recommended dietary allowance for vitamin D in adults is at 600 international units, although many sources think this should be higher. Based on these values, vitamin D is one of the most common deficient vitamin in the world. It is estimated that about 1 billion people are deficient in vitamin D, which how does our body use this vitamin D3? As you can see on the slide, it promotes bone health, promotes cardiovascular health, supports the skin, supports healthy muscles. Vitamin D does a lot of benefits for our health and for individuals. Singapore is a sunny island. However, many here are deficient in vitamin D. More than 30% of Singaporeans have vitamin D deficiency. Most of us get vitamin D from the sun. Our body synthesizes vitamin D when sunlight interacts with dehydroxycholesterol in our skin. However, with awareness of skin cancer and skin damage caused by the sun, many of us don't get enough sun exposure to create adequate levels of vitamin D in our body. Furthermore, those of us with darker skin are even more inclined to be vitamin D deficient because darker skin naturally blocks the sunlight from producing vitamin D. Darker skin has melanin, which is a pigment that provides the darker skin, but it also blocks sun's UV rays entering our skin. Now, we can get vitamin D from some food sources, but quite honestly, we cannot get it a lot from the foods we eat. We can get vitamin D from seafood, but it's not easy. Let me show you an example. Sardines contain vitamin D. Each sardine contains about 23 international units of vitamin D. This means we would need to eat 4 to 5 sardines to get the daily dose that we minimum need. I don't think anyone wants to do that every single day. Singapore daily recommended dose is 100 international units or 2.5 micrograms per day, which is much lower than the US recommended daily dose, which is 600 international units. We have to note that even with that lower recommended daily value, Singaporeans are generally low in vitamin D levels. So what do? We supplement. There are many vitamin D supplements on the market. Many are not completely natural. And did you know that most of the supplements on the market get their vitamin D from oil in the sheep's wool? For me, it looks like the sheep is saying you're taking all the vitamin D from me. So scientists at D. Gary Young Research Institute worked hard to make something very different and better. We created super vitamin D. This wonderful new supplement delivers 1,000 international units or 25 micrograms per each tablet. And it delivers vitamin D from a sustainable vegetarian source, Vitashine, a patented vegan vitamin D3 extracted from lichen. And we have used a new technology to really make super vitamin D easy to use and more bioavailable. It's called ODT, oral disintegration technology. Oral disintegration technology is a unique delivery system to address the difficulty of swallowing pills and to overcome first pass effect. A first pass effect is a drug or vitamin being significantly metabolized by the gut or liver before it enters the bloodstream, resulting in a lower bioavailability. While developing prototypes, we found most of the ODTs on the market use synthetic cross-codon to achieve faster dissolving time. At Young Living, we always try to find natural alternatives, and we were successful in designing this product as an all-natural oral disintegration tablet. Combining the active ingredient with fast dissolving mannitol and starch molecule, we were able to successfully achieve a natural product which quickly dissolves in the mouth, making it easier to take while providing improved bioavailability. A vitamin D supplement such as Young Living Super Vitamin D will be beneficial for all of you who are living in Singapore, especially office workers, those who are in workshops, and those on night shifts who were found to be at greater risk of vitamin D deficiency. Singapore has one of the most rapidly aging population in the world. With increasing age, the body no longer synthesizes vitamin D from sunlight, leading to an increased risk of vitamin D deficiency. Thus, vitamin D is especially important among seniors to keep their bones and their muscles strong. Vitamin D is a risk factor for depression in older people. On top of that, it is good to note that Singapore is a fast-paced society where many are experiencing stress and anxiety. Studies have shown that vitamin D helps regulate mood and reduce anxiety. And this is important, especially during this challenging period where mental well-being is a concern. This product, like every other formulation, has Gary's vision. We coupled vitamin D with lemon balm extract from our partner farm. Lemon balm extract is high in rosmarinic acid for stress reduction. It is great pairing as vitamin D is called happiness hormone. I hope everyone gets to enjoy the benefits of this amazing supplement. This is something I take every day to make sure I'm getting enough a dose of vitamin D every single day. I give it over to Irene to continue on the presentation.
Thank you so much, Varun. Okay, so Varun, you have actually mentioned a few unique points or unique selling points when it comes to super vitamin D. But I just wanted to emphasize, to take this opportunity to emphasize on a few things here. Varun actually spoke about, vitamin D deficiency. And yes, in Singapore, it's definitely a sunny island. It's sunny all year round. And the fact that, Varun pointed out that the recommended daily amount of vitamin D for Singaporeans or those living in Singapore is actually pretty low. Okay, it's about 2.5 mcg. But yet, okay, with that low amount as compared to the RDA in the US, okay, even with that low amount, there's a huge number of Singaporeans or those residing in Singapore who are actually deficient in vitamin D. And why is that so? Because, most of us are actually working from home. And, even if you're not working from home, you actually, mostly you work indoors. And the fact that, some habits that we actually practice every single day actually blocks the production of vitamin D. For example, I've definitely got a question for Varun at the end of the session. But Varun, just one of the question, definitely we need to address, does the use of mineral sunscreen lotion, okay, or sunblock actually blocks, vitamin D production in that from the skin? Okay, we'll address that later. And yes, you look at one of the articles, okay, that's published in the Straits Times. The 2010 National Health Survey found that 40% of Singaporeans were deficient in vitamin D, while another 8% were very deficient. When I talk about deficient in vitamin D, it definitely affects, when you're deficient in vitamin D, what does it affect? It affects healthy bones. Don't forget, because we need vitamin D to actually absorb calcium, okay? When with vitamin D, it helps our body absorb calcium. It helps our body absorb phosphorus to retain calcium and phosphorus, and that actually helps, okay, in the long run to build stronger bones. And at the same time, of course, just imagine, all right, if you're deficient in vitamin D, how it actually affects your bone health. Okay, it affects the mineral bone density. And if you are very deficient in vitamin D, it actually increases the risk of certain bone concerns here. All right, and how do you tell if you're deficient in vitamin D? We spoke so much, basically saying that more than 30% of Singaporeans are deficient in vitamin D. And vitamin D is being so important. It's the only vitamin that is produced by the body, but yet, there's a risk of being deficient in this vitamin. And how do we know? How can you tell if you're deficient in vitamin D? Firstly, these are some of the symptoms or signs. Feeling fatigue, more frequent infections and illnesses. Now, if you're wondering, why is it that when you're deficient in vitamin D, you have more frequent infections and illnesses? Another point that we don't want you to forget is vitamin D, apart from being important to support healthy bones, healthy muscles, it is actually very important to support immune health as well. In fact, vitamin D helps to support healthy immune system. Okay, so of course, generally that translates to if you are lack of vitamin D, you tend to have more frequent infections and illnesses. Lower back discomfort is actually one of the symptoms as well. Muscle ache and cramps and mood changes. Remember the slide that Varun presented earlier on? When your vitamin D actually helps or aids in mental well-being. In other words, it actually helps to regulate your mood. And actually, apart from that, in fact, there are clinical studies that show that, when you have sufficient vitamin D, or rather, adequate amount of vitamin D, it actually helps to reduce the anxiety level and helps to, regulate the mood. Okay. And here is actually an article that actually found on the website. Is actually from Harvard University. Yes, Varun mentioned that you can actually get vitamin D from the sun. But of course, because of our lifestyle, working indoors, staying indoors, we're just so afraid of the sun. Okay, we're just so afraid of the sun because we don't want to get tan. We're just so afraid of the UVA and UVB rays. Even so, when you're exposed to the sun, you're minimizing only for a certain period of time. And sometimes by just applying mineral sunscreen lotion or applying like sunblock, it may affect vitamin D production. So yes, sun is actually one. The other part, you can actually get vitamin D from food. But like what Varun mentioned, you will need to eat about 4 to 5 sardines a day to meet the minimum amount of RDA for vitamin D in Singapore. Do you take sardines every single day? And the fact is in this article, it's highlighted that in terms of natural vitamin D, only few foods actually have it. Okay, some foods are actually added or fortified with vitamin D. So in fact, in this article, it states that for some people who are not exposed to the sun regularly, who don't really take that foods that are high in vitamin D, a better way to get vitamin D is to take a supplement because it is hard to eat enough through the food. You may be eating sardines, you may be eating food that contains vitamin D, but the question is, are you eating enough? Okay, that brings us to the next slide. And if you remember, this is one of the news article that was published where low-income household actually to get a 2-month supply of vitamin D supplements. Right after the National Health Survey released the results to say that more than 30% of Singaporeans are deficient in vitamin D, the next move is the government actually led the move to say that, low-income household to get a 2-month supply of vitamin D supplements because they want to manage and we want to avoid the situation where more and more people are getting deficient and more people are having bone concerns. All right, so that brings us to, and of course, I would like to introduce you definitely the super vitamin D. Super vitamin D, it's not a new product in a sense that, it's been a while in the United States. Varun, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while in the United States. We launched that last year?
We launched last year at convention. Yeah. Last year, June.
Yeah, the good news is it's actually in Singapore. So these are the details of the product, the retail price, the wholesale price, the PV, the servings per container. So what's different here, of course, for super vitamin D, all we need here is 1 tablet daily. And what's important to note is all you need is actually 1 tablet. So it's actually one a day dose. And it is vegan friendly. And the next slide I wanted to highlight to you is the competitive analysis and how different is super vitamin D compared to other brands in the market. So I'm going to spend a little time here. Brand A, brand B, brand C, and brand D are the vitamin D supplements of other brands that are found in the pharmacy. So they are called like the OTC brands. Okay, you can find them from Watson's, you can find them from Guardian, Unity Pharmacy, or even hypermarkets or supermarkets. So in terms of ingredients, across all the brands, including Young Living, the key ingredient is vitamin D3. For Young Living Super Vitamin D, it's also vitamin D3. And in terms of the amount, it's all across the same, which is 1000 IU. that translate to 25 mcg. And a unique part is for Young Living Super Vitamin D, apart from containing vitamin D3, it contains essential oils such as melissa, namely melissa, as well as lime essential oil. And not only that, it actually contains organic lemon balm extract. And this is the ingredient. Organic lemon balm extract is the ingredient that helps in mood regulation along with vitamin D3 in Young Living Super Vitamin D. Okay, so the two difference here is, in terms of ingredients, two difference. Young Living Super Vitamin D contains essential oils. Second part would be, it contains organic lemon balm extract. And the third one that I wanted to highlight is the Super Vitamin D, or rather the vitamin D3 in Young Living's one, it's from a vegan source. Okay, it's not from animal source, it's not from the sheep wool, or from the sheep, like what Varun mentioned. Okay, so for Super Vitamin D, the source of this vitamin D3 is from a vegan source, and this vegan source is actually from VitaShine. That is the three differences, the three unique points. All right. Amount per bottle, of course, that's pretty standard. I mean, we can't change the amount per bottle for different brands. So for Young Living Super Vitamin D, that's 120 chewable tablets. So all you need is one a day that will last you for, there will be 120 servings. So when it comes to product positioning, or can I say it's the unique advantages, for Young Living Super Vitamin D, all you need is one tablet a day. And the best part about this that I really want to highlight is it's a chewable tablet. Whereas for brand A, B, C, and D, they are either in soft gel format, they are either in capsule format, or they are either in tablet format that requires the intake of water. That requires water for you to actually swallow it. For Super Vitamin D, Young Living's brand, it's easy. Okay, it's fuss-free, you don't need water. And in fact, I've tried it myself, right? It dissolves almost immediately when you actually chew it. The tablet itself is really small. All right, all you need to do is just chew it. It tastes great and it dissolves easily. So for this part on the unique advantages, I'm going to say that there are a few advantages here. Firstly, it's only one a day dose. All you need is one chewable tablet. Second part, which is chewable tablet. Okay, and this really stands out because I've actually done the research, and none of the other brands in the pharmacy comes in chewable tablet for vitamin D. All right, so that's the part.
Irene,
yep.
Do you mind if I jump in like real quick?
Sure, no problem.
The importance of having a chewable tablet versus a capsule or a soft gel is, like I was saying earlier, our liver metabolizes a lot of vitamin D. So when we take a tablet or a capsule, once we dissolve through water, it goes through our liver and metabolizes vitamin D3. And when it's getting into our blood cells, it might be only 200 IU or 300 IU, which might be the reason of low vitamin D levels in Singaporeans' blood, because some of these soft gels do not get, even it's 1000 IUs, it's not getting the 1000 IUs into your bloodstream. Taking a oral disintegratant like a chewable tablet, it's absorbed through your buccal cavity because you're dissolving it in your mouth, and you get most of it into your bloodstream. That's a major difference between our competition and our product.
Right. Thank you so much, Varun. Varun, I guess the chat is really going really. I mean, there are really some interactive conversation in the chat. But since you actually mentioned about the oral disintegration technology, can I also get your help to explain a little, Varun? Because there seems to be a confusion. Like, typically when it comes to Young Living Super Vitamin D, right, the source of it is still vitamin D3, compared to the rest of the brands are vitamin D3. So vitamin D3 are basically the form of vitamin D that can be used by the body, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the difference is, I think the confusion here is, you mentioned a little bit about the source of vitamin D are usually from the sheep, while for Young Living Super Vitamin D is actually from lichens. I think the confusion here is, I think some of the attendees actually are confused, like, is our Super Vitamin D from lichens, and what's the difference between lichens and the sheep, the source?
So lichens are slow-growing plants, basically. So they absorb and produce vitamin D3 in their while absorbing from the sun. They have a similar mechanism like our body, but those are the only known plant source vitamin D3. So that's why it is a patented ingredient, VitaShine, that we get from vegan source. That's the only available vegan source on the market.
Okay, that's great. So can I summarize what Varun has actually explained? So Varun explained that vitamin D3, you can get it from different sources. One of the more common source is actually from the sheep, and another from the sheep, and that's the animal source. Another source you can actually get it, which is a glycan, which is from the plant. And definitely for young living super vitamin D, the vitamin D3 comes from lichen, which is from the plant.
Yeah.
And glycan, it's basically the vegetarian and vegan source of vitamin D3, and we are using that, Varun. Is that right?
Yes, it's a plant, and we get extracted from the plant bulbs, and they extract in a all natural process. Just extract vitamin D3 from them.
Right. Okay. So this is another unique advantage. Okay, unique advantage of Young Living Super Vitamin D compared to the other brands here listed in this slide. Okay. Yes, I see, Abigail. Yeah, it's good for vegan. Yes, for Young Living Super Vitamin D, it is vegan friendly. Okay, it's vegan friendly as stated here. And of course, in terms of manufactured, you have these countries, you have the respective countries being listed here. And the price point, of course, in terms of price point, we can't really compare because with a premium formula, such as, Young Living's formula, where you actually include pure essential oils, where you actually have organic lemon balm extract, as well as oral disintegration technology, together with, a vegetarian source of vitamin D3, it's worth to actually pay a few more cents per tablet, because you know that you're getting the best vitamin D that has high bioavailability, easily dissolved and easily absorbed by the body. All right, can I have the next slide, please, Varun?
Yeah.
Okay, so here, why should you choose Young Living Super Vitamin D? It's 1 a day dose. All you need is 1 chewable tablet daily and no mess. Okay, it's fast free, easy to take. There's no need to take water. Okay, you can actually just, take in 1 tablet, chew it as you go while you're packing your stuff and etc. It's easy to take on the go. It comes with oral disintegrating technology, quickly dissolve in the mouth. I know this one seems a little bit more complicated, but let me just summarize it. When it comes to oral disintegrating technology, it simply means that, okay, there are higher active amount of vitamin D that can be absorbed and readily absorbed by the body. Okay, when there's higher amount of vitamin D that's readily absorbed by the body, you get the optimal benefits of vitamin D from this product. All right, unique formulation. Apart from vitamin D, it has lemon balm extract, as well as essentials, namely melissa and lime essential oils. Naturally sourced, it's not from animal source, it's not from sheep, it's actually from the vegetarian source, lichen plant that is grown and harvested in the United States. And the best part about it, it's plant-based, it's vegan friendly. And when it's vegan friendly, it's actually suitable for, it's actually suitable for everyone. All right, next slide, please, Varun. Now, who needs super vitamin D? Now, when I ask this question, who needs super vitamin D? The answer will be everyone needs super vitamin D, because everyone needs vitamin D, right? But of course, let's be very specific, okay? Of course, the blanket statement was everybody needs super vitamin D, but who needs it in terms of, we go highlighting special groups of individuals. Definitely office workers. Why office workers? Because, okay, all of us, majority of us working professionals, they work indoors. And right now, with the challenging situation, we are either working from home or we are working in the office. Right now, we rarely actually go out. Okay, and not to talk about, exposing ourselves to sunlight. Individuals on shift work, because when it comes to individual on shift work, individuals on shift work are usually more active at night. And, when it comes to daytime, they're usually sleeping a daytime or spending indoors. So individuals who spend most of the time indoors need super vitamin D. Individuals with low bone density will need super vitamin D. Remember, vitamin D helps our body to retain calcium, to retain phosphorus, and that's important to build our stronger bones. Senior citizens, now why senior citizens? Because as we actually age, the production capability, okay, of vitamin D actually reduces. Okay, and that's where, and of course, as we age, I mean, there's a risk of, low mineral bone density. So that's why you'll need vitamin D to build and support stronger bones, and of course, not to forget to support healthy muscles as well. And those living in a fast-paced environment. Now, why those living in a fast-paced environment? Vitamin D helps and aids in mood as well as and managing anxiety. It helps to regulate our mood, and of course, with sufficient vitamin D, it actually helps to reduce the stress and anxiety level. All right. Okay, so this is actually to wrap up about, who needs super vitamin D, what are some of the signs and symptoms, and the unique advantages of super vitamin D. And yes, Varun, are you ready? We have quite a number of questions coming in for, to ask about vitamin D, to ask about super vitamin D. Okay, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, or attendees who are actually in this session with us, feel free to type your questions in. We have some time to address your questions. Now, Varun, the first question is, what is VitaShine?
So let me explain that. When we are developing products, we closely work with our partner firms, our partner C2C approved suppliers to get ingredients. VitaShine is one of the ingredient supplier who has it patented vegan vitamin D3, calciferol, that we partnered with and sourced that ingredient for Young Living. And I saw another question, so I will also touch on it, where lichens are plants or fungi actually that are grown at extreme conditions. So what they do is, growing in those extreme conditions, they store a lot of micronutrients in their plant bulbs for surviving these extreme conditions. So these are sustainably raised in the extreme conditions, and then the oil is extracted from the plant bulbs, and then it's used into a concentrated vitamin D3 to produce the VitaShine ingredient, which VitaShine is a brand name. It's not an ingredient. Vitamin D3 is the ingredient that VitaShine brand supplies Young Living with. Yes. Whoever said that, Cynthia, yes, it is a supplier that supplies lichen source vitamin D3.
All right. Thank you very much, Varun. Varun, I think I mean, I will take this question. I think there's some confusion between like the international unit and MCG of for vitamin D. Now, I'll just take this question. Now, ladies and gentlemen, international unit, it's an MCG, right? They're just different units of measure. Okay, and they're both applicable to vitamin D. So vitamin D, when talking about RDA, it can be expressed in international unit. And international unit is a unit of measure for vitamin D commonly used in the United States. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean that vitamin D can also be expressed in MCG. That's the reason why, and both are interchangeable. Like for example, the RDA of vitamin D in Singapore, it's 2.5 mcg, and that's equivalent to 100 international units.
Yeah, and just to expand on that, I think it's World Health Organization that set international units just so that it's more standardized across all the world. But again, more and more countries are going more with micrograms because it's just they're making it more tailored to their individual countries. So 2.5 micrograms or 100 international units is the recommended dosage for Singapore or RDA for Singapore. But again, even with that low amount, Singaporeans are still low in vitamin D. So I think taking 1,000 micrograms or one tablet will help them improve overall vitamin D levels in their blood.
Yep, thank you very much. Varun, I have a question here. There's someone who's actually asking, like, first question. I mean, before I go, detail into the question. I think firstly, it's vitamin D beneficial for skin health?
It is, yes. So overall skin improves because our skin actually have cholesterol underneath our skin. That is what, when sun rays hit it, that's when it's producing the vitamin D. So vitamin D actually accumulates. It's a fat soluble vitamin, and it accumulates in all the fat deposits in our body. which is actually helping improve our skin health overall. And I see some questions on eczema, and that's something I think they need to get an opinion from the doctor.
Yes, correct. I mean, to address Sue's question, like I've bad eczema, how many tablets should I consume? Because eczema is it's a skin condition, or rather a skin challenge, a skin concern by itself. I mean, for those who have actually have existing condition, I think it's best to actually speak to the doctor on how you should go about it, because there are many different factors that may cause eczema, or if you don't handle it properly, I think there are even some factors that may aggravate the condition. Right, Varun?
That's correct. And I saw a question about if people can take one or two, if they're two tablets if they're deficient. I started with two or three when I checked my blood levels when I realized I'm really low. Like I mentioned, with people with darker skin, actually have melanin on their skin, which directly blocks UVB rays, which are the ones that are helps with producing vitamin D. So so I started with a higher dose and then lowered it. Vitamin D accumulates over the period of time in our body. So I would start with, I personally will take a 2 if I'm low in vitamin D and then lower it to 1 after 3 to 4 weeks. And there are some vitamin D level testers, especially in the States, they are available to test your blood levels. So I would also check my blood level content with the doctor just to make sure I'm deficient or not in vitamin D.
Yeah, that's a useful tip, Varun, because I think the next question was like, I mean, I've actually shared about signs and symptoms of vitamin D, but the fact is, if any of you wants to be really sure that you're deficient in vitamin D, definitely a blood test will do it. For example, going for a blood test, or you actually go for your annual blood test, check your levels of vitamin D, and it's really deficient, that's where you need to up your levels through either exposure to the sunlight. I'm not sure how many of you are willing to do that. And of course, getting it from food, like how many sardines are you going to be taking, or how much egg, because how many eggs, because eggs contain vitamin D as well. And of course, I mean, the other alternative is definitely getting it from supplements, which is definitely a better option, because you don't need to take 4 to 5 sardines. You just need to take one chewable tablet. And if you're really sure of the source, like Young Living Super Vitamin D, vegan source, it comes with, pure essential oils, you can be assured that you're getting the best quality of vitamin D in the market. So there are more questions. All right, I'll take this question, Varun. There's a question that says, what is a healthy level of vitamin D in the blood?
Yeah. So it's again, there's so many factors that come into play. Age comes into play. If you're active outside, and also really depends on your age limit and your body weight. And so typically a 30 to 100 nanograms per milliliter of blood is an ideal source, but also getting closer to 80 to 100 nanograms per milliliter is ideal. But again, if you're getting a blood test, then your doctor should be able to tell what are the optimal levels for your demographic, because they would know your health condition at the right level.
Yep, that's right. Because because age plays a factor, because definitely, right, vitamin D level, or even any nutrient level, levels of any nutrients in your blood, right, it actually correlates with the age group as well. Correct? Like, for example, if you want to check whether you have normal blood sugar level, you have to see what's your age group, you have to see whether is it fasting or non-fasting. But for nutrient level, it's definitely the same as well.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what other questions do they have. All right, so Varun, can I actually get your help to explain a little of the unique advantage, which is the oral disintegration technology for super vitamin D? I know it says that, it easily dissolves, but what does it translate to?
So oral disintegration technology, like I was saying earlier, when we take especially vitamin D, when we are taking vitamin D, our liver metabolizes a lot of vitamin D. So when we are taking, for example, if you're taking 1,000 IU of a soft gel and drinking it, then the soft gel dissolves in our stomach, and then it enters our liver, and the 1,000 IU might be metabolized, which is it might be reduced to a 200 or 300 IU, which enters into our bloodstream. So to differentiate from that, the oral disintegration technology is once you chew on it, it starts to melt in your mouth. Once it's completely dissolved in your mouth, we have a buccal cavity right underneath our throat, and it enters through the buccal cavity and directly enters bloodstream, where, for example, 1,000 IU your blood might get around 800 to 900 IU into your blood, versus if it's a soft gel, it might be significantly lower because it's being metabolized from your liver. Does that make sense, Irene? Does that help understand what this technology versus a soft gel in general?
Yes, it definitely helps. I mean, definitely helps for the attendees to actually understand why is like the super vitamin D and this technology is so important to ensure that they're getting the optimal amount of vitamin D from what they are taking. All right. And yes, just to add on, I mean, just to add on, remember I shared about, many Singaporeans actually lack of vitamin D. And do you know, we know that we can get vitamin D from the sun, okay, by exposing ourselves, exposing the skin to the sun. But do you know how long do you need to be exposed to the sun to get vitamin D? Okay, one of it that's being shared in the Straits Times article is to get an adequate amount of vitamin D, it is recommended to get sun exposure on arms and legs for about 5 to 30 minutes twice a week. Now, I want to ask, how many of you here expose your arm and legs for 5 to 30 minutes twice a week?
Also, again, the same question is when you're exposing, it also depends on the time of the day. Like I
Correct.
said, the UVB rays, which are there are UVA, UVB, UVC, that very different wide spectrum of sun rays. You need to get UVB rays into your skin to produce vitamin D, and also it's very different from person to person. Like I said, I have a darker skin, and my body reflects the UVB rays, so I don't think I'll absorb more UVB rays, so I'll not be producing more vitamin D in my body versus someone from here in Utah. Yeah, so it's very different from person to person.
Yeah, and yeah, we do have attendees saying that I'm guilty. They don't expose themselves. Like Asian hide
Yeah.
from the sun, Varun. Yeah, you'll be wondering, when I actually extend my invitation to invite Varun to share about vitamin D, and he's actually quite shocked, like, Singapore is a sunny island, but yet there's so many people here deficient of vitamin D. And yes, Patricia said that, she only exposed her arms when she's driving, okay, to the sun. And yes, that brings me to another question, Varun. Asians, right? Because honestly speaking, I mean, I can speak on behalf of Asians, right? We are very afraid, in a sense that I would say fearful of sunlight. Okay, simply because we know that it causes sunburn. We're just afraid of the UVA and UVB rays. And even the fact that even when we actually go under the sun, we actually apply we actually apply sunblock, sunscreen. How does that actually affect the vitamin D production?
So again, when you look at a sunscreen or a sunblock, you can read it on the label. If it says a broad spectrum, which means it's blocking both UVA, UVB, and UVC rays from entering your skin. Which again, like I said, UVB rays are the ones that work on your skin and under your skin in the cholesterol and then synthesize vitamin D. So applying sunblock will negatively affect producing vitamin D. But again, exposing to sun, we have been seeing a lot of skin cancer or skin irritation or skin troubles. So applying sunscreen is a wise option for sure when you're exposed or being in sun for a longer time. I recommend using sunscreen.
Okay. So it's more like, you got to, I would say, balance it up. Like too little of something and too much of something, it's always the moderation. Like you get too little sun, that's where you get like deficient in vitamin D. But at the same time, you also need to protect ourselves from the sun as well, right? So that you don't get sunblock, you don't get like skin cancer and etc. You got to find a balance, like while you're actually getting some vitamin D from the sunshine, but at the same time, not too much in that way that it actually burns your skin. And yes, to the question is, I'm not sure if someone asked a question like, what's the best time? The best time to get the sunshine vitamin, okay, to expose yourself to the sun. Now, first tip, you got to expose your arm and legs for 5 to 30 minutes twice a week. And the best time to do so is between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. each day. Okay, so 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. each day. So that's the best time to do so. So 3 points, okay? Arms and legs. Duration is 5 minutes to 30 minutes. Frequency is twice a week. Time to do so is 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Yes. Okay. All right, morning sun. Okay, Lydia asked morning sun better. Right, okay, and I want to I will take this question, Varun. Okay, there's actually a question regarding the recommended direction of use, direction for use for super vitamin D. I know there's some attendees who are actually from Singapore, from Malaysia, and some from United States. To add on to Lydia's point is for super vitamin D that's actually launched in Singapore on LTO basis, the directions for use is slightly different from the US version. For US version, what's recommended? It's higher than one tablet, but for Singapore, because of the regulations and guidelines by the local health authority, our guideline here says that you will need to take like one tablet daily. But like what Varun mentioned, if you got the doctor's check and there are reports saying that you're deficient in vitamin D, right? You can actually up your levels of vitamin D and then slowly regulate back to the normal level, and you can reduce it back to one tablet daily thereafter. Right, Varun, you actually mentioned that if reports actually show that it's deficient, they can up the level, and then once they get the level right, you just need to maintain.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's a question from Mona. Okay, she says that thanks for the explanation, Varun. In general, a very large percentage of Indians are vitamin D deficient, even though we are exposed to the sun so much. I've been taking super vitamin D 2 tablets daily for several months. Love the taste, hoping my results are better next time. And following that, there's a question from Cynthia. Are there any side effects if one overdose on vitamin D?
Again, the recommendations are very specific for each country. So yeah, so if you're taking one or two tablets, I don't think you'll be overdosing, but that's something you definitely need to check with the doctor. If you're increasing then the recommended dosage, I would definitely check with the doctor, because vitamin D3 is, like I said, a fat soluble vitamin, and it could accumulate over the period of time in your body. But again, there are several studies showing significantly higher treatments with vitamin D. But again, each country has their own regulations. So I would definitely recommend checking with your doctor. If you know, or if you already have results saying that you're very low in vitamin D, I'm sure they'll be able to help at what IU you should start at.
All right, thank you very much, Varun. And allow me to add on, Varun, because when it comes to nutrients, right, definitely when your lack of certain nutrients is not good, but when you go on overdose on certain nutrients, is definitely not good as well. Like for example, not only vitamin D3, but vitamin C. If you lack of vitamin C, your immune system suffers. You get like bleeding gums. But you have too much of vitamin C, that's where you end up with diarrhea and etc. So for vitamin D3, if you're worried about overdosing, I think I would say a disclaimer. For all vitamin, or rather for all nutrients, there's always an upper limit. There's a recommended daily amount. Recommended dietary amount, allowance, or recommended daily amount. It's the minimum amount that an individual needs for specific nutrients based on the age, the gender. Okay, that's the minimum amount. So when it says the RDA for vitamin D for Singapore, it's 2.5 mcg. That's the basic minimum amount that you need. All right. But of course, if you're talking about, if you're worried about overdosing, there's another segment which is called the upper limit, and that depends on what's your age group, what's the gender. All right. So I hope that explains that a little. And if you suspect you're deficient in vitamin D, get that check as well. And yes, for vitamin D, Varun, just a question from my end here would be, what would be the best supplement? Can I say that the best supplement to actually pair with vitamin D for better bone health would definitely be calcium supplements?
Super Calculus is an amazing addition. And again, Erin, if I'm talking out of the turn, because I'm not sure what supplements are in Singapore, because I'm aware of all the supplements. Okay, yep. SuperCal is an amazing supplement to add on, because calcium, when paired with vitamin D, helps with bone growth. And I think we have only 400 IUs in SuperCal Plus, so pairing it with vitamin D actually enhances. And also, SuperCal Plus has a polyglycan, which is an immune support blend, which also was studied extensively to support bones and ligaments. So supercalculus is a great addition for vitamin D.
Yeah, so in general, all calcium supplements, whether it's a SuperCal Plus, whether it's a MegaCal, or even like SuperCal, just generally calcium supplements are a good pairing to vitamin D, because you take super vitamin D, to absorb and to retain calcium. So we actually pair that with calcium supplements. That'll be great. All
Yeah,
right.
I just saw Mariana's question about
Mhm.
vitamin K2. Thank you for pointing out that, Mariana. Yes, SuperCal Plus has vitamin K2. So the reason asking to pair with SuperCal Plus for bones and ligament health is because it also have vitamin K2 and calcium, and super vitamin D will be a great addition. Super vitamin D is created because it's standalone. Other than bones and ligaments, it also helps with mood, also helps with overall well-being. So overall, super vitamin D has more benefits than just bones and ligaments. But SuperCal Plus is a standalone supplement for bones and ligaments, which is really great addition to have along with vitamin D.
Okay, thank you very much, Varun. Varun, I have another question from my gifted oilers. Are the vitamin D in other young living supplements same as super vitamin D? Super vitamin D?
Yes, Master Formula has Vitashine as well. It is a trademark ingredient. So yes.
But in terms of the amount, it's slightly different.
It is very different. Yeah.
And in terms of the pairing, like for example, super vitamin D has pure essentials and melissa, lime, as well as the organic lemon bark extract, which is not available in Master Formula and other vitamin D ingredient, other young living products as well, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I guess we have actually addressed all the questions here. Yeah, thank you very much, Lydia, Rachel, for addressing the questions as well. And okay. Yep, thank you very much, Varun. I think we've addressed all the questions. Any further questions on super vitamin D or vitamin D from attendees here? Let's see. Yep, I think it's good. All right, thank you very much, Varun, for sharing. For sharing your knowledge about vitamin D and your knowledge about vitamin D, the benefits of vitamin D, and of course the unique advantages of super vitamin D. And on behalf of Young Living Singapore and all the attendees here, we are really grateful that you actually join us. It's really early in the morning in Utah. It's only the starting of the day for you, while it's actually close to like 10 p.m. for us here. Okay, and before
my pleasure being here. My pleasure. Thank you, Irene. Thanks for inviting, and this is such a fun conversation, and I'm really thrilled with all the questions, which actually also helps me build a lot of knowledge as well when I'm answering these questions. So thank you so much for all the wonderful questions.
Thank you very much, Varun. And yes, to Lydia, I want to highlight Lydia's point. We have SuperCal in Singapore. Okay, and that's a good one to actually pair with super vitamin D. Okay, so thank you very much, Varun, and thank you all. Thank you to all the attendees for joining us this evening. And yes, please get your hands on super vitamin D while stocks last. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Varun.
See ya. Thank you all.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. Have a great day ahead, Varun. Thank you.